Hi, I just made some tweaks to my template and I thought this would be the perfect time to show you guys how this template is built. Yeah, so this template is built around the clip to zero method by Buffermetrics. I will link to the playlist in the description so you guys can check that out because it's a lot to explain and that would just break this video here. But the basic idea behind this is that you have like a lot of groups, and within these groups there are subgroups, and you have a clipper at the end of your group processing, or sometimes a limiter. And the idea behind this is to get loud and clean mixes, basically. Yeah, I don't really follow it to a T. It's more like a light version because, well, I don't use Bitwig for once. Yeah, the first group in here is actually just a utility group. And what do I have in here? I have a Node Max for Live device, which is called Notepad. And the only thing you can do in this is type stuff in, like stuff, for example. I'm not a person that remembers what I did the day before and what I want to do in the next session. So I just write down, I have to fix the kick, or I have to record a guitar part or whatever. And yeah, I think it's a really neat tool. It's free. It's a Max for Live device. I will put something on the screen now to show you where I got this from. Yeah, the next is just an audio track which I called ref, and I will just put a reference in there when I get to mixing. Then next up we have a demo audio track, which is basically the same, but this is more for keeping my sanity, where I will, once I have my first arrangement done, I will call this the demo, and I will export this and put this in here so I can always reference this one, because sometimes you just do stuff that isn't really making the track any better. So I can compare this and realize, hey, wait a minute, actually it sounded much better in the beginning, so I should keep it that way. Then the last one, which is in another color because I'm just so used to having it in red, is the sidechain ghost track, which is just a sample of a hi-hat and it's muted, so I can sidechain any elements to it if I want to. So next up we have something I called lab. Yeah, the idea behind this one, you can see there's like, I have a track called sampler and the other one is called resampler. I throw a sample into the sampler and then I do stuff to it and then I resample the stuff in the resampler. Yeah, I often resample stuff within the project, and so it's kind of nice to already have a track at the ready which you can use to resample stuff. So after this we have the drum group, and in this drum group there are two groups and then also just a separate track. The first group is the KS group, which is just for kick and snare, and also clap or rim shots or whatever. Yeah, I just think it makes sense to have them in this group together. And I just realized that I don't even have a clipper in here anymore. I think I accidentally deleted it. So now I have a clipper in here. Then the next group is the tops group, which has closed hi-hats, open hi-hats, perks, rides, all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't add all the audio tracks immediately because then you will always have to delete it when you are done with the arrangement, and that can get a bit annoying. So I only have a couple in here and I can just duplicate them if I want to. And the last track in here is the break track, which is just for any break beats that I might use, like the amen break or whatever. I will go over each individual track after I've shown you the individual groups. I think that makes more sense. Yeah, then the next group is the bass group, where I just have a sub and a main track, which are both MIDI tracks, and that's pretty much it. Then we have a synth group where I just have a pad, a lead, chords, and plugs, which is the stuff I usually mostly use within my synths. Then I also have a guitar group because I also like to play guitar, and then I have two audio tracks in here, both one is called riff, the other one is called lead, so yeah, you might guess why. They're both set to the correct input on my audio interface, so I just have to press record and it can start. Then after this we have an orchestral group, which both, well, there's once is the piano in here, and then there's a strings track in here, and they both use the Labs VST. I already have like this one set to record because I sometimes just want to head into the door. and play some awful piano. After this, we have the Candy group, and this group is just for any kind of effects, shots, textures, like, you know, like these Foley textures from wind or trees or whatever, or anything like this, like ear candy, goes into the Candy group. Last but not least, we have the vocals group, where I just have one audio track in here. I don't usually record my own vocals because I can't sing, but if I have some nice vocal samples, I put them in here. Let's go over each individual track. Yeah, I don't think I really have to show you what's on here. Like, a lot of stuff like this will be repeated throughout, so it's not that interesting to show it here, really. So on the kick, I have a drum rack. I usually just use one sample in here. I just think it's a bit cleaner to work like this. I mean, sure, I can also use more samples if I want to, but usually I have just the drum rack, which is just the kick. Then the next drum rack would be just the snare, and the next one would be just the hi-hats and stuff like this, because I prefer working like this. So I have the drum rack in here. Then I always have an EQ in here, because I will have to use an EQ eventually, probably on each sound, so I'll just have it in here loaded without any low pass or high pass. Then I have this volume automation rack. The idea behind this is just to make volume automation much easier, because I can just automate this here. It peaks at 0 dB and doesn't go over 0 dB. So if I go to the automation, I could just do something like this, and then I have a very clean volume automation, which is just easier, and you don't have to do this fiddly stuff like when you would try to automate like the usual utility gain here. It's just annoying. Then after this is basically what I do use for the clip to zero method. I have DP Meter 5 in here, which is a free plugin. This can be used to gain stage, basically. So let's just say we have this kick pattern here. Nothing crazy, and then I can just press this, and then it will automatically gain stage it too, so it will peak at 0. That's the whole idea behind this. It's quite nice. Right, and after this, I have K-Clip 3, which is the hard clipper I use. It's set to hard clipping, and you just try to clip off a little bit of the sound to make mixing just easier for you, because hard clipping is a nice thing. Again, I can't really explain the whole method here. It would just take way too long. There's a link to a playlist down below. Then after this, I have a limiter, and after this I have Corellometer, which is a free plugin by Voxengo. It shows you any phase correlation issues, which is probably not happening on the kick. Wait, I can show you on a very wide pad, like here. You see, okay, here's something like happening with the phase in this band. If you want to, you can fix this with like a mid-side EQ, for example. If you want to, you don't have to. It's a great plugin. I have this on each track, because it makes life easier for me. And that's everything there is on this individual track, and the same is true for each of the other drum elements, except for the break, because here I also have a break cleaner rack. Well, I can show you what it does. So we have the Armin break here, and the idea behind this rack is to clean it up, basically, to make it a little bit, just cleaner. If you want, you can do a high pass, you can kill like the mud, or you can boost some of the high ends. And in here there's just an EQ, and this preset I made called Break Dynamics. It's just a multiband compressor that is a really good tool to clean up your drums. Okay, so the last thing then is what I have as group processing on this on the drums. I just use the limiter, Frontier limiter by D16 Group. I think it works well on drums. I always have this on here if I want to make the drums even louder. So what else is to show? So again, there's pretty much always the same effect group on each track. The only thing is different that I obviously don't use the drum rack on the parts that aren't drums. And I also don't have any synths in here because I don't really have a go-to synth. The idea behind this template is to make things easier for me for starting, but also to not put me too much into a box, really. Yeah, then again, same stuff on the guitar group. And as I already have shown you, there's the Labs VST on the piano track. And then I also have the strings on the strings track. Yeah, then the Candy group has the same rules as every other group, every other track, except that these are audio tracks and not MIDI tracks. And the only thing that's, again, a little bit different is the vocals track, because here I also have autotune. I guess everybody knows what autotune is. It's, yeah. I just always have it in here. Yeah, so these are the groups. The next section, which is important, is my return tracks. Well, I have 3 reverbs and I also have 3 delays. So on the first reverb track, we have a hall reverb, and I use Valhalla Vintage Verb for each of them. I have it set to concert hall just for starting, because I think it's a great starting point, but I always tweak it. Yeah, then there's an EQ afterwards, just if I want to cut out a little bit of the low end or just shape the sound. Yeah, this is the hall reverb. Then the next one is the plate reverb, which is again Valhalla Vintage Verb, and yeah, it's just set to a shorter decay time from the get-go. And the last one is a room reverb, which is again Valhalla Vintage Verb, and it's set to room mode. As for the delays, the first one, let me first show you how they sound, so we can have a little listen. So this is the hall reverb, this is the plate reverb, and this is the room reverb. Yeah, then again, the next thing are the delays, and the first one is a slap delay, which just does this. So it's a very short delay. Then I have a ping pong delay, which is set to, I think, dotted eighth notes, if I remember correctly. I think 3 is dotted eighth notes. I'm not sure. This is usually my main delay, like I use this, oh yeah, it even says here, dotted eighth. And then there's also another one which is a bit even slower, which is set to quarter notes. And I just use the standard Ableton delay with standard feedback. Again, I might tweak it if I want to, but usually I don't. And yeah, again, there's an EQ afterwards. Then the master, the main track, whatever. There's again K-clip at the start for catching the last bit of peaks that I might want to get rid of. Then I have BPB saturator in here, which I have to set to very subtle settings, but it's the idea behind this is that I just have a bit of saturation immediately when I start the project, because it makes everything a little bit thicker. Like if we use our piano, let's turn this up a bit. Like you can hear the distortion, but obviously I don't want it that heavy without it. It's very subtle, and it's supposed to be subtle because I don't want to overdo it. It's just there to add, yeah, again, just a little bit of body to everything. It makes every mix a little bit thicker, and yeah, it's just nice. Then I have a utility afterwards, and I have mapped this to my MIDI controller, and I mapped the mono button to it, so I can just easily check mono. And I also mapped the mid side, so if I want to check the sides for whatever reason while mixing. Then after this, we have the limiter number 6, and this is basically usually just there to protect my ears in case I make something stupid and accidentally want to blow out my eardrums. I sometimes work into this where I immediately turn up the gain so I can have a feeling how my track would sound if it was quote-unquote mastered. After this, there are just a bunch of metering tools. The first one being Julian Loudness Meter 2, which is the free plugin. There's also a pro version. It's just nice to see how loud your track is. I know that LUFS don't really matter all that much, but it's just nice to see what's happening sometimes, and also to see the dynamic range of your track, or the true peak and stuff like that. It's just for metering. It's not necessary, but I like stuff like this. And then we have span. Yeah, I just quickly pulled up one of my tracks to show you what's happening in span. You can just see what's happening in the frequency spectrum. I have it set so I can also see the side information. blue is the mid and orange is the side. Yeah, it's a great tool. It's free. I would recommend checking out a video by Dan Worrell where he explains how to best set this up. I will link this down below as well. So after this, I have tonal balance control, which I usually just put in some custom targets just to see if I'm like in the ballpark of the tonal balance, which I am here. Like it's not one of the custom curves, it's one of the pre-made by Isotope. Then again, I also have corellometer. And there you can see I don't really have any phasing issues because this one is already finished and released. Yeah, and the last thing in this chain is MSED, also by Voxengo, which is Lysages. I hope this is how you pronounce it. Vector scope. And again, yeah, it also just shows you how the phase of your track is. Like, it's another metering tool. You shouldn't rely too much on them, but they can be helpful at times. Yeah, so this is the template, but I think I will also add just like a tiny little bit of a bonus section where I will show you guys what I also have happening here. Like in the collections, the first thing I have is mix presets, and that's just, as the name suggests, just my mix presets. Just for instance, like this brake cleaner or the volume automation rack, I have them all in here. Not each of them are the ones I made myself. Some of them are just pre-made by Ableton, or I got them somewhere else or something, but most of them are my own. Then I have the one knob presets, which are just presets which, as you might have guessed, are used with one knob. I also have my sample collection here. I just prefer it having it up here, so I can always, I'm just used to it. There isn't really a reason why I have this up here. Then I have instrument presets. Again, these are mostly my own, but there are also some of the Ableton racks. Yeah, there's so much in here. Then I also have effect presets, and yeah, again, most of them are the ones I made myself. I also have some Max favorites here, which are just my favorite Max for Live devices, which I tend to use a lot. Sequences in here, there's EQ stuff in here, there's stuff in here to control the resonator. There's also one in here that I made myself, but it's not really great because I can't really use Max for Live. Like, this is very, very basic. Like, it's very basic. It's pretty much, I think this was the first thing I ever did in Max for Live, and then I got disheartened and stopped making devices. So it's really not that great. I mean, it's kind of cool to have your own device, but again, yeah. Yeah, and here in the categories, the most important thing are the tag groups, where I just sorted everything. And this is a stupid bug. This has been happening a lot lately. Has anybody else this bug where you see what's happening, okay? Why does this happen, Ableton? Like this, it also sometimes happens if you search something. Like if I type in decapitator and then get rid of, and it's gone. And then you can't see it anymore. The only way I fix this is if I press VST afterwards. Then I see it again. It started happening with, I think, Live 12.0.5 or something. Yeah, I hope they fix it in 12.1. It's a bit annoying. Yeah. It's back again. Yeah, so the first one is the clippers, like all my clipper VSTs. Then I have compressors, then I have delay, then I have everything that's somehow related to drums, but not always, because for whatever reason it also throws melt in here, although I haven't tagged it like this, and it's a bit annoying, I think, because there are drum rack presets that have that. Yeah, then all the stuff I use for guitars, my EQs, my limiters, I call this machine learning EQs. It's just stuff like Boba is a Max for Live device which just emulates Soothe, and then yeah, all Zone 11 stuff. I try not to rely on this stuff too much. Yeah, then other effects, like that's stuff like chorus, phaser, flanger, reverbs, samplers, a lot of distortion and saturation devices because I love distortion, sequencers, sound banks. Why are the sequences? Oh no, yeah, again, it doesn't really load, but there's labs in here. There it is. Labs in here, synths, transient shapers, which again don't load, utilities, like all the stuff that just like the utility tool, for example, or the DP Meter 5, like all the stuff that doesn't really make a sound but helps you. Vocals. That's it. There isn't more to show you here. I don't have... I mean, it looks like a lot of plugins, but I actually, like, most of them are free or open source, and I don't really rely on too many because Ableton has awesome stock plugins. That's something I will always tell beginners, to not buy plugins unless you want to, like, unless you really need to, or no, you don't need to. You don't need to. Let's put it like this. You don't need to buy plugins, but if you want to and you know what you're doing, you can buy plugins. I know that some YouTubers will make you think that you have to buy this plugin to get the greatest mix ever and whatever, but it's just not true. It's just not true. Yeah, this is the whole template. This wasn't scripted, so it might be a little bit disjointed, but I hope you learned a little bit from this. Yeah, again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.